This is definitely not the Breath of the Wild shirt. Try again. Few people will get what this shirt is. Don't worry. I have a, yes, T missed it. There you go. I have a mount that I've created out of cardboard, so it's not gonna, the phone's not gonna shake everywhere. There's no Facebook updates. No Facebook updates, but I am outside in nature. Oh man. Yeah, I'm too cheap to buy a tripod. I made one out of old cardboard. So yeah, it was raining earlier, so that's that ambiance you hear. That's last bit of rain dripping off of the roof. Yeah, I'm not even playing Pokemon Go. I've been playing Pokemon Study. As even though I'm not actively in school right now, since it's the end of the semester, my learning continues. So, taking some notes, some stuff that I was looking at, because I wanted to make sure, since we had a very interesting hangout this morning on MP's channel, that and say what you will about that, it spurred me to look into some more philosophy, to make sure I'm using terms right, to make sure that I understand modern Tollens and modern Tollens and ponens, and all that good stuff. So, happy birthday, Blue! Happy birthday! But before I talk about all the wonderful stuff I'm going to talk about, I need to make a correction. G-Man did not block me. Yeah, this is The Philosopher's Way by John Chaffee. Thinking Critically About Profound Ideas, 4th edition. A friend of mine gave this to me at my previous institution, so I told him that, I have conversation with people on the internet about, philosophy and religion and science, so he gifted this book to me, so I'm putting it to use. Yes, I understand you have the 5th edition, Midnight, I see it. Yeah, let me make this correction, because G-Man was quite irate that I told people he blocked me, and so I need to make this correction that he must have had his phone off after he threatened to block me like he did last time when he got upset. So my conclusion that he did block me when I tried to call him after he threatened to block me was an error. So that's something I need to get out there, because I told him I would. I told him it's not a huge deal how one could draw that conclusion, but he had no problem calling me an out. Well, one of the first things he said, one of the first things he did was call me and then tell me that I'm a liar, because that's definitely how you get your point across to people, and inform me that he must have had his phone off or not have heard it. When if you didn't hear your phone, it wouldn't go straight to voicemail, but if it is off, sure, it'll go straight to voicemail. So only one of those scenarios is actually applicable here, but it's odd. It's very odd. Anyway, so not a huge deal. G-Man's supposed to solidify these rules to the dirt bait today. I've been asking him for that for about a week, and it seems as though the person he needs to get in contact with can make videos for everything else other than this debate, and laying down some of the groundwork. So I find that interesting. I find that very interesting for folks who claim that they're so interested in this engagement. Priorities, right? So one of the other things I sent to G-Man though, remember when we mentioned the problem of evil, and then he had initially said that it's something like atheists, some atheist came up with it or something like that. He had no idea, but he just kind of assumed out of wherever he pulls ideas from, that some atheist had came up with it. But in reality, it was a theist many moons ago. And so I literally sent him this page here where it's talking about Epicurus, the problem of evil. And the author actually, author goes through, let's see, 1, 2, 3, what's that? There's he goes through three fallacious solutions, and then there's a non-fallacious solution. See, there's one, he doesn't number that one. Okay, yeah, so this last one is the non-fallacious one, a non-fallacious solution that some of us have actually heard before. Evil is due to human free will, and he has like a straight up page about why that's bullshit. But I need to sit down and read over the fallacious one, even though we've literally heard these before. Like it's textbook material, literally. So it's good though to just kind of go over, even though I've had this conversation for years. Scholar Fiction is really good about breaking this stuff down, and it's interesting because the way that I like to approach learning about things is it differs greatly from how other individuals come to learn things. Because sure, one thing that I did learn today, folks, I watched a Facebook video about that Flat Earth conference, and I'm going to relate this all together in a second. The people who went to the Flat Earth conference were met with an individual who wanted to go and interview them to find out how they came to that conclusion, right? This guy's out of his own curiosity, he bought, I think he said like a $150 ticket. I think there was only 550 tickets total, but he bought one. He went and interviewed people. All the people he interviewed were convinced by YouTube videos. That's interesting, isn't it? All of them were convinced by YouTube videos. Another interesting thing that people might not even, consider all that interesting is that all of them previously held to other conspiracy theories. That's such a mundane statement, but it stands to say that there is a common thread among people of that nature. So again, another reason why G-Man will probably become a flat earther, among other people. So yes, people don't come to flat Earth because they have a strong knowledge of mathematics and geology, or just to give you an example, they don't have evidence that is out there that they can demonstrably show their model. I've barely even seen them with models, if you want to call it that. So this has been demonstrated by Redline. In fact, the Redline got one of them to try and sit down and do flat Earth trig, and it's fucking hilarious. The dude, for one thing, obviously knows nothing of trig, but he's trying to just follow along with what Redline is showing. And I mean just basic trig too, nothing, none of that crazy trig where you're taking shit and using the inverse of this trig function and trying to solve for this one and trying to make sure both sides are the same. None of that crazy shit. Basic trig, can't do it. So that's something interesting. But let me bring this back. Let me bring this back. Having a cursory understanding of a topic is not really enough to engage in a debate. Sure, you can have a discussion with folks, but you end up being taught more so than trying to discuss. And so, if, for instance, if I go and I just give you an example. If I go and watch a YouTube video on the problem of evil, well, I have an idea. I have a cursory understanding of what the problem of evil is. But this book here actually goes into detail about what the refutations, I guess you could call them, or not, actually no, he calls them solutions, excuse me. He refers to them as solutions, the solution to the problem of evil. And what he does is he quotes, he puts it in bold, what these solutions are, and he actually categorizes them as fallacious, as they are fallacious. And then he goes into detail and explains why. Now he gives himself enough leeway to say, this is from my perspective, this is fallacious and why. Okay, and now let me go into detail as to how this would actually play out if I were to buy into this. You know, he actually says, let me conduct a little bit of critical thought, which is earlier in the book, because this is like page almost fucking 400. That would be like step 2. Okay, you have a general understanding. Either you've spoken to someone about whatever this topic is. In this case, the problem of evil. Or you watched the video. Step 1. And then step 2, you sat down and you did a little bit of reading. Step 3. You're right. Here. This is actually stuff for genetics. I'm just using this as an example. Oh, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. I'm not going to get that money until it reaches 100, but I appreciate it anyway. That's why I have that donation thing in the description for folks who do want to donate. Thank you. But yeah, like I said, this is genetic, but this is for me step 3. Step 3 is sitting down and extracting the information that I take out of here. So an example of something, I might right at the top of the page, the problem of evil. I'm probably not going to include Epicurus's like his quote, you know, God either cannot or will not prevent evil. If God cannot prevent evil, then God is limited in power. If God will not prevent evil, then God is limited in benevolence. But if God is not limited in either power or benevolence, why is there evil in the world, though? Period. Oh, question mark, not period. So I probably don't have to include that because it's a pretty lofty quote, but you get the idea. Whoa, wait. That's but so what can I take away from this? Well, I understand that the concept of what's being defined here as a God, mind you, the God that this guy's talking about is big God, capital G God. Okay, it's not talking about some forest nymph. It's not talking about some, you know, person who thinks that he's a deity. There's a very specific definition for God that this person is using, and so redefining what he's defined as God is talking about something different. The first step to understanding what this guy is talking about is not to redefine the terms that he's using, and I see that a little bit too often, and it tells me that folks aren't actually paying attention. Because if I am a really, really strong theist and I disagree that these points that he's making are fallacious, 1, 2, 3, the three solutions here are not fallacious. That's my position. Well, how does redefining what God is here help my position? How does that actually work? Right now, why won't you eventually? Yeah, the way the super chat works is you have to have at least $100 of those donations or whatever, and then they'll cut you the check for however much. Don't ask me why it's like that. I have no idea, but it's annoying. So anyway, that's not how you go about trying to combat something you find is just egregious. You know, that's not how you do it. You learn about what it is first, and then you go from there. Trying to misrepresent, because that's actually what you're doing. Like, you're misrepresenting what somebody's fucking saying. I don't see how people in the same breath think that they're being honest when they start redefining other people's terms. Now, if there's a genuine misunderstanding about the way someone's using a term, then okay, well, we can take away from we can take away the labels. We can take away the labels, and we'll just refer to the concepts. Okay. Instead of God, I am referring specifically to a supernatural entity, a disembodied supernatural entity with all three of the omniattributes. Like, we can get into the ontology of what this thing is and refer to it as such. We don't have to even call it a God. It doesn't matter. But it has to have certain attributes that are outlined based on the context of what we're talking about, what's going on here in this text. So I do find it interesting that a lot of Christians will sometimes try to argue about the problem of evil and then relate it directly to the Christian text, but then want to keep it in that context, but then the context changes in order when the refutation from them comes, like the context. And I'm trying to think of a good example of what I'm talking. Well, actually, no. When G-Man redefines God, that's a perfect example, because the God that's he's referring to is a supernatural one that has all three of these, omni attributes. But then, well, you can't disprove this. Well, it's not talking about that one. Okay. So anyway. My mind just went blank. Stupid mosquito. But yeah, this is actually a pretty good book. This is pretty. It's not so bogged down in technical terminology. It's a pretty good gift, and it was free $99, so that's one of the best gifts you can get. But I am curious though about how other people come to their conclusions and how they do research. How, let's not even go like flat Earth, because that's just bottom of the barrel. You have to start off with a little bit of crazy, and then you acquire more of it slowly. If you're, I'm gonna use G-Man as my whipping boy. If you're a G-Man, how do you come to your conclusion that evolution isn't true? Okay. So how do we get in that headspace? Well, for one, I might want to understand what it is first. Well, that's a little bit of a challenge, because I don't think these big head scientists with these white lab coats and their snooty names and letters behind their names, they say all kinds of stuff. So who cares? Okay. Well, I want to see a dog become a non-dog. Well, you know what? We can see that. Okay, cool. Where can we see that? We can see it in Pokemon. We can see it in Digimon. We can see it in Yu-Gi-Oh! We can see it in all kinds of cartoons and stuff like that. We can go to anime and see dogs turn into non-dogs. Oh, but no, I'm talking about what the big head scientists say with the lab coats and the stupid names. I'm talking about what they say. Well, how do we know what they say? Well, because Richard Dawkins, he's a snooty scientist and he's an atheist, so he gets to speak for all of you atheists. No, the fuck he does not. Negative. Negatory. 9. What ends up happening is that the body of work that is evolutionary biology acts in concordance with one another toward that particular conclusion that we have, or I guess the sets of scientific facts that we've been able to compile about the natural world. There is no, thank you for reminding me about Tommy. Let me say this, there's really no one paper to show, well, this is a scientific fact. It's usually several papers, and they all are along the lines of, well, here's what we found with this experiment, well, there's another paper with this experiment, it's very similar to this one. In fact, we'll reference that one and go, okay, we found very, 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 very similar results. So yeah, we are in accord with that person, and that person, that person, that person, et al., etc. So it's like that. Now, okay, how many people are actually going to sit down and read a scientific paper? Not too many. Some of them are kind of hard to read. And if you're like Tommy Hall, you believe that, and let me get this right, scientists use big fancy words to keep people like him out of science. Wow. I guess that's the same thing for law, and the same thing for any other field that contains any amount of jargon. And you really have to have some wicked victim complex to think that there's a conspiracy specifically to keep you out of a particular field of study. Like, you can have a conspiracy where people are trying to keep you out of a country club. It's pretty apparent. But people create an entirely new language just to keep you out. That's interesting. That's really, really interesting, because you could, I don't know, learn it. I mean, that's always an option, right? You could honestly learn it. I mean, you look at philosophy. What the fuck is a modern ponens, modern tollens? What the fuck is that? That doesn't sound like English to me. Oh wait, sounds a little bit like Latin. Latin sounds a little bit like English. Well, what about biology? Well, sounds a little bit like Latin. Sometimes a little bit of Greek. So you learn it. Like, that's really what you have to do. What about law? Guess what? It's almost like there's a pattern. I don't speak legalese. I go to MP for that shit. But if I want to, sure, I can go learn it. But I'm not going to sit here and say that there's some type of conspiracy to keep me out of it because there's hard language or different language. Who says that kind of shit? Really? That to me says you're fucking lazy. Incredibly fucking lazy. But then we'll turn around and say, well, this field says this. Well, how do you know what it says if you think that there's a conspiracy to keep you out of it? If you can't read what's in the field, how do you know what the field is then saying if you can't read it? If you think there's a conspiracy to keep you out of it, it's odd. You can't have both, because at some point you're missing context, you're missing understanding if you can't read it. If somebody else is digesting it, chewing it out, like cud, then you're going to get the gist, but there's going to be stuff that's missed in translation, inevitably. But dealing with a lot of the folks that we talk to, you really notice that, and I'm glad G-Man acknowledged this, a lot of them are lazy. No, G-Man did not say lazy. No, Tommy did not say lazy. No, none of them actually said lazy. They've indicated that they are lazy. And I say that because in my conversation with both the individuals I just mentioned, they have said that they don't have to have a comprehensive understanding of these topics. Let me give you an example, because I think G-Man and I somewhat have a similar standard for what's useful as far as having knowledge. I have probably a more than cursory understanding of genetics. Well, Drag, what do you mean by that? Well, I know bits of factoids. Human genome contains about 6 billion base pairs. That's a factoid. What can I do with that? I can tell it to someone else. But what good is that? Okay, so then what else can I do with this information? Well, I can gain more knowledge and learn how to genotype mice. In fact, that is one of the positions that was dangled in front of me for the near future, a role in genotyping mice. That's actually putting this knowledge to use. So it's interesting to say that somebody knows nothing about a topic, and that's really what I want to get on here. I want to get on this because I've heard this being tossed around, and I've said it too. When I say, and I can only speak for myself, when I say this person knows nothing about the topic, I don't mean it literally. What I mean is this person knows factoids. Hold on, what's Deslik saying? Dragnet, I haven't seen a dog turning into a non-dog, but I have seen a human turn into a new species of chicken. Gallus, uneducated, G-Manus. He's not gonna like that comment. Yeah, I need new glasses, folks. That's why I have to go up there. Yeah, I saw the name, but it kept scrolling up. Sorry, but Gallus, uneducated. When I say when I say this person knows nothing about the topic, take that with a grain of salt. First and foremost, take it with a grain of salt. Pot me kettle. But that doesn't mean that a person has to know everything in that field to know something about it. Okay, for one thing, it's hyperbole. If you don't know what hyperbole is, then you probably shouldn't make a comment on what I'm saying, because what I'm saying is most definitely recognized as hyperbole. Secondly, since it's hyperbole, okay. Midnight, don't send me no fucking long ass paragraph to read off. The difference here is that when you have a knowledge in a subject, you should be able to apply it in some way, shape, or form in a practical means. And that's when I said that G-Man and I have a similar standard, I guess, for what you could call, possessing knowledge or being knowledgeable. And I want to say, even though the example he gave me was really weird, and this was a while back, having the application of that knowledge. Right. The difference is you can be very knowledgeable about a topic and field very difficult questions, and there is no practical application other than to communicate the topic in a very robust manner, such as being an upper collegiate educator. You can never work in the industry, which, okay, sure, that's a mar against your image, but that doesn't mean you don't know what you're talking about. Again, we get into this thing about the shibboleth. There are rudimentary things that you have to be able to demonstrate in order to kind of pass that mini litmus test that we all have in the back of our head. And let me give you an example of what I'm talking about here. I knew immediately if someone served in the military, and it's such a small thing, such a small little, and a small little factoid, that you have to have served in order to know this question, because you'll answer it immediately without hesitation. It's something you don't forget. Okay? What is the name of the form that you get when you get out of the military that every retired and vet service member has? If you don't say DD-214 within 2 seconds, I know you haven't been in the military. Okay? Just like with that, if someone says that DNA falls apart in pure water, I know that they probably never stepped foot in the lab ever in their life. If someone says that you need half of a population for a particular sample size to get an accurate sample, I pretty much know that this person knows dick all about mathematics. If a person says that pi changes based on the culture or on the area or on the topic, the value of pi changes, no, you probably know nothing about this topic of math. If you say that blood never comes in contact with bone, not knowing that bone marrow inside of bone makes blood, you probably know nothing about the topic. There's such fundamental things that exist within these fields that you learn them within the first week of any formal class. Literally the first week. Even if you don't step foot in a class, there are certain things at the beginning of books that will introduce you to the foundation. So the difference between soundness and validity, if you want to hold yourself in a conversation and claim that you know a little bit of something about philosophy, you might want to know the difference between soundness and validity. So again, these are subjective. These are subjective. Everyone has their own little standard, but it's generally understood that if you get some of these things wrong, and I mean not mistaken, I'm not talking about being one-off. If someone says 5 billion base pairs, I think Eo had said earlier, when I said 6 billion base pairs, he said 3.2. Someone said, no, you're thinking of the haploid. What I was talking about, his answer was accurate but not precise. It wasn't completely wrong. It was in the ballpark of what we were referencing. And it is an accurate statement given that context, haploid versus diploid. But he didn't say 2,000 or 6,000. See, there's a range, and there is wiggle room in a lot of these cases. And like I said, I'm just picking on EO just to give you an example. But I know based on his answer, oh no, he's just gotten diploid and haploid confused. And that's it. And that, again, that happens. But you can't get DNA falling apart in water, or actually, let me even go even simpler. In chemistry, degrade and dissolve mean the same thing. No, the fuck they do not. Negative. There is not one chemist that will tell you that they mean the same thing. So the fact that we had to have a 6 to 8 month conversation on the terminology of chemistry, the stuff that you learn when you first walk in the classroom and they hand you a word sheet, a word bank or whatever, you know, not even, this is like high school shit. This is shit you get in high school. But again, I'm just giving you examples. So when somebody like Neffy goes, well, you know, if people don't understand this topic, they really shouldn't be talking about it, and all of us get a hearty belly laugh, it's ironic, is what the fuck it is. It is really ironic, because then when I went on to ask Neffy, you claim that there's an issue with evolution, as you claim, and specifically with what defines a species. Because when I asked what defines a kind, buying into the fact that they claim that there is such a thing, he couldn't give me one at all. And again, it wasn't a closed-ended question. It wasn't some trap. It wasn't anything. I was genuinely curious what defines a kind, because I don't know. What is a duck-billed platypus? Is it a duck-billed platypus kind? You know, I can say here, well, it's you know, I can put it in this category of monotremes. You know, other than that, it's kind of like whatever. You know, it has its own designation after that, but that's based on certain characteristics. Okay, so when he goes, oh well, you know, the evolutionists have that issue too. When he says shit like that, I know he's wrong. I said, okay, well, Neffy, are you familiar with the biological species concept or the phylogenetic species concept? Oh yeah. I know phylogenetics. That's not what I asked. What's calling me? That's not what I said. I didn't say phylogenetics. I said phylogenetic species concept versus the biological species concept. So, no, it wasn't G-Man. It was somebody from Louisiana number. It said unknown name, so I hit decline. So that right there told me that Neffy does not know the difference between the two. To a much greater degree, he doesn't know what they are at all. And I went on to explain the difference very briefly. But it's funny because just previously he has stated that people who don't know about the topic shouldn't speak on it, yet he doesn't know what those are. And again, those are very basic terms. There is an issue to a degree with trying to define a species, but it's not an issue like he's defining it. There's a certain criteria for one and the criteria for another. One is better than the other given what you're looking for. Really, they're both informative, but it's different than not having a criteria at all. Again, the issue is completely different. It's like choosing Starbucks versus Dunkin' Donuts as opposed to not having any place to get coffee. I know, folks, those are a terrible place to get coffee. I'm not a hipster. I don't know the good places yet, okay? I gotta get my hipster friends. But this is the kind of stuff that we talk about when we engage in these conversations. And I'm glad that I had a conversation with Fabio, because I have not spoken to Fabio in quite some time. But Fabio, with his sage advice, did point out that a lot of these folks are being given platform by us, you know, inadvertently, to profess their idiocy while knowing dick all about the topics. And is it to our detriment that we're giving them a platform when it's clear that they haven't done their homework, that they're not sitting out on their porch on a nice day like this doing just a little bit of reading, you know, and doing a little bit of writing? Are they? They could be sitting inside on their nice recliner taking notes. If you want to do YouTube then. If you think that's cool, take some notes. Check with some folks. But it's very interesting. Glad you introduced me to Fabio. Yeah, I'm Fabio. So for those of you who don't know Fabio, Fabio's been around for a while. He's an Italian, if you didn't get that. But Fabio has a problem, okay? People don't know this about Fabio. Fabio has an extreme allergy to stupidity, okay? He breaks out in hives and Italian curse words. And he has to keep his exposure to stupidity to a bare minimum, or he will asphyxiate and die. So in order to prevent this untimely event, he has to stay separate from a lot of the idiocy that we are, or I guess trying to inoculate ourselves from. So like I said, he gets definitely ill in the face of the type of idiocy like cancer is just a scary word for the accumulation of toxins in the body. So, yes, that kind of stupidity. But, like I was saying, it is very interesting when we have these conversations and how they get turned into many lessons. And speaking of which, Doc Savage has offered some free lessons to G-Man recently, and he's declined. And free lessons in biology, by the way. And say hi, Doc Savage, in the chat. He's one of our resident biochemists. He has offered off air to go and give G-Man some lessons on this stuff, and I think that's quite nice because there's a lot of us who are you know, going through school who definitely benefit for those lessons too. Hell, I know I would. But it's not often, because let me put this into perspective. I would have paid $1,400–1,500 to sit in a classroom, let's say with Ozzy, and learn the stuff that I learned from him over the years. Because mind you, Ozzy actually does have an education, formal one, in the field of philosophy. I owe him some money. But he's graciously given this information to me and to a whole bunch of other people to chew on, to, you know, to throw it back at him, and to just, you know, engage in a variety of topics. Hogtie has done the same, and if anyone knows Hogtie's background, you'd be paying at least $2,500 a semester to talk to Hogtie, if that's a hint. And that's American money, not Canadian ducats or chit or whatever it is the Canadians use for money. I think it's gold coins or something like that, or dollary dues, or I don't know, moolah. So it's a very, very gracious offer that I think should not be turned down, because he's not belligerent. I mean, if people don't want to learn from me, then yeah, they use maple leaves as money. But you know, he's not an asshole like me, so I think it's a pretty decent offer, especially to do it offline too. But what I find interesting, what I find very, very interesting, oftentimes, is how there is no low bar for a lot of the claims that we'll hear, because you would think that, well, there has to be some level to which some of these folks will go. Like there has to be a bottoming out. Like I will never, claim X. Time and time again, you will see that there is no bottom. There's no floor for stupidity. There is not. Point in case, the lunar bukkake theory, as put forth by Nephilim Free, is one of the best and oldest examples out there about the ridiculousness of some of these young Earth hypotheses, if you want to call them that. You know what? And Doc Savage says the offer to G-Man is open, so his offer's still out there. And for those of you who are not familiar with the lunar bukkake theory, as coined by D.P.R. Jones many moons ago in the Magic Sandwich Show, Nephi is convinced that the biblical story of Noah's flood was caused by the founts of the deep. So Nephilim believes that there's enough energy in the earth to propel liquid water up into our atmosphere, outside of our atmosphere, with enough force to make an impact crater on the moon. Several of which, mind you. I can't tell you how many laws that has broken in his hypothetical scenario. But overall, you don't know where to begin with how wrong that is. Like, it's not a big deal. People say it rained and there's a local flood and people thought it was, all over the world. That's feasible, right? That's not a, people think that kind of stuff all the time. When it's flooding your area and all you see is water, of course you're going to think something like that. And most reasonable people can see that. But to then go, there's enough energy, and keep this in mind, folks, there's enough energy in the earth to propel it out, to keep it in liquid form, and to get it outside of our atmosphere where it would change phase. Like it's resisting two opposite phase changes rather. Just think about that for a second. That tells me that Nephi knows nothing of basic physics, nothing of basic chemistry, because a reasonably educated person would have never said anything like that. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But you will have people on here who defer to Nephi for their science questions. Nephi would be laughed at by any professor up the street from me if he were to get in front of a class and tell a class of brand new students that shit. He would be laughed at because it's absolutely, abjectly fucking stupid and impossible. If you don't understand that there's not enough energy on Earth for that hypothetical scenario, I don't know what to tell you. First and foremost. Second, I mentioned the change in phases. Once you add a certain amount of energy to water, it tends to change phases. When you take some of that energy away, it will change phase as well. So, Nephi knows nothing about enthalpy. Nephi knows nothing about pressure. Nephi knows nothing about these things, but will sit for 3.5 hours and pontificate about these topics and expects people to take him seriously. Again, going back to my original premise, there are certain things, there are certain basic things that you do have to know in order to convince people that you are somewhat knowledgeable on a topic. That, to me, demonstrated that Nephi knows nothing. I'm being hyperbolic here. He knows very, very, very little about a lot of these topics. I'll just stick with basic fucking chemistry and physics. I'll stick with that. Those two. I will never believe him on any topic he speaks on because that is so demonstrably wrong. There's no way to get over that. That's like me asking True for help with homework, my calculus homework or something, or or hell, computational statistics. Do you think that a guy who says that you need half a fucking population size for a sample, for an accurate sample that is, do you think that I'm going to defer to him for help with statistics? And that's it. Hell, we got a few mathematicians in the community who said, "What in the fuck did he get that from?" Because you don't need that at all, you know. But again, knowing how mathematics works kind of gives you an idea about certain things. People can kind of gauge your knowledge based on how you respond and based on what you put forth. And thank you, EO, the 1001, the 4-digit binary. It's like, what do you say to that? Like, that's just, it's so wrong. It's orange. Like, it's not even wrong. That is 12 potatoes on a hot tin roof because toasters. Like, that's in the realm of dollary doos and flippity flops and zoom zam Bill Cosby sounds. Like, that's the level that it's at. But they want to be taken seriously. But according to Neffy, people who don't understand this stuff need to stay out of the conversation. I agree, Neffy. I completely agree with you on that. You and I we see eye to eye on that shit. And you the first motherfucker needs to stay out. Because I'm like, man, did some of y'all see the video that G-Man mirrored on his channel? Where if you actually to take a transcript, Neffy repeats the same line at least, I would say, 15 times. And if you don't get it, it's only like 7 minutes long, but go watch it. It's pretty funny. He doesn't understand how genetics plays a role in evolution. That much is clear. And he thinks that repeating this mantra that he has somehow means something. I'm not going to spoil it. But if you haven't seen it, go watch it. And you facepalm. You go, I'd pay money. I'd pay cash money to see this motherfucker in a lab and have him teach a bunch of undergrads. Cash money. Just to see him fall on his face. Remember that scenario that Tommy Hall put forth where he would go into some classroom and embarrass the biology professor? Well, I'm not sure how well that go for him because both of the individuals who taught me biology were Christians, believe it or not. And actually the one who taught me the second time, and she taught me genetics, she's a Christian from India. Her name is Pramila Kurguntala, Dr. Pramila Kurguntala. And she's an ID proponent, believe it or not. So I'm not sure how well he thinks that go for him. But I get a good laugh. Hell, I got a good laugh either way. My last project, I put up a picture of Korean barbecue. So, I don't know. But I do think I always think it's interesting what some of these guys propose, because a lot of them actually, you'll see them throw little barbs at me every so often about how much I may or may not know, and I make no bones about my level of knowledge on different topics because I don't need to fabricate credentials. I don't need to pretend as though I have certain degrees and I went to certain schools because my self-esteem isn't tied to my online persona, believe it or not. Unfortunately, some individuals need to lie about how much they actually know and where they've gone to school and that sort of thing, and keep bringing up certain things. But hey, Sable Drag, you talk about your school a lot. You're damn right, because I don't have a life, and I know it pisses people off. So, Matt Slick claims he punked one of his college professors. They love demonizing higher education. I doubt that happened, unless Matt Slick is the type of guy who will meet you outside your car when it's late at night. You probably, I don't know. I wouldn't put that past him. He might have. He might have. Now, if he had dignity, yeah, I know. Yeah. Here, Drag, I hear DNA isn't simple. Yeah, DNA is wonderfully complex. It's so complex. It's so complex that it's so complex. It's complex, but it's the evolutionists can't get past how complex it is. Man, it's complex. This stuff is complex. Did you hear DNA is complex? It has the quaternary structures, and it's so complex, and it has a tertiary, tertiary structures, and it's so complex. It's complex. Did y'all know it's complex? I heard DNA is complex. Stupefyingly complex. Yeah. I'm just like, oh my god. One of these days, I gotta sit Nappy down and go, okay, Nappy, what metric are you using to determine complexity? Because I can look at a leaf and say a leaf is complex. I can look at a swirly little turd that a dog leaves and say that's complex. Like it's what does that mean in the context of evolution? Like how are you, like you're making an assessment here based on some criteria that you've not outlined, and then you're saying, well, I can't put this square peg in this round hole, so therefore no evolution. Leave me to how you got to these conclusions, because I'm lost. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe. Dragon Nephew using the God of Gap. Yeah, that's his go-to. Honestly, he doesn't really have much else other than that, and it's sad because if you look at, I'd say like the last 5 years, some of us have been on here. He's learned nothing. He has learned absolutely nothing. At least I'll give G-Man this. He learns a few tricks every now and then. He gets on a few new topics. Like he does keep it fresh, relatively, but Neffy's learned nothing. Drew's learned nothing. Tommy, it's let me see. I wouldn't say that Tommy learns, because that wouldn't tell him not repeating the same mistakes over and over. Tommy shifts the goalposts. Tommy's an athlete, so he will shift the goalposts any number of times, as he's done recently with the whole what is cancer, cancerous tumors rather. He's shifted the goalposts on that so many times now that you have to qualify any position that you give him his by giving a chronological retelling of where he initially started to where he is now, because saying the first one isn't necessarily accurate, because he's moved on from that, because that's been morphed and shifted and changed to something else from another paper that he's barely able to fucking read. And so now we're supposed to pretend like the first statement he made is the same as the last one, because it somehow connects when it does not. It's sad when you actually sit down, because I did this on one of Fiona's threads. I copied and pasted Hogtie's extraction of Tommy's original statement, and then I took the last one that he has, its current incarnation, and I put them next to each other, and neither one resembles one another, because he's changed it. Because after he's been educated, put that in quotes, educated on the topic, he's had to change it out of necessity, because it's demonstrably fucking false. So Tommy wants people to take him seriously. I guess he's jokingly now wanting a Nobel Prize. Well, go put your ass in a position to get one. Like, I don't know what to tell you, Tommy. Like, it's funny. Like, I want to be a star athlete. You know what, Tommy? I want to be an Army Ranger. Well, I kind of need to go join the Army again. I kind of need to get back in shape. Well, you know what? I think I do hard work enough here. I think they should just give me my Ranger tab and I'll be on my way. You know, no big deal. Like, that's the attitude that Tommy has. Like, he thinks in his mind he can put in the least amount of work towards a goal and he needs to be rewarded for it. At least intellectually, in these conversations that we have. because he literally does nothing more than read abstracts, misunderstands them, and then tells us that, well, we don't understand his position. Well, I'm sorry, Tommy, your position's incoherent, and half the time when you post what you think supports your case, when people actually read it, it doesn't. And so he has to find another paper with an abstract or a title that he thinks agrees with him. And it's funny, if you actually go to the discussion section or the conclusion section, like you can just go to one of those two. Usually the conclusion, you'll see a few caveats that he clearly missed. And it's sad. Anything that Tommy posts, go down to the conclusion, look for the caveat. Guarantee he missed it. Like, it's literally that easy. Not even joking. His unwillingness to actually put forth the work is his own worst enemy. But we're the bad people for pointing that out. People who actually kind of have to read it because he fucking didn't. We're the bad people. You go, Tommy, that's not good. We didn't pat him on the back and give him the good old boy treatment, so now he's sad. Now everyone else is just the big poopy heads because we had the audacity to say, hey, buddy, guy, friend, pal, you kind of didn't get that. That's, no, this what you're saying and what this is actually saying, they don't jive. That's not how that works. That's not how any of this works. No. Name. And so we get the waterworks. And so we get, leave Tommy alone. Well, it wouldn't be so bad. It really wouldn't be as I guess vitriolic if he didn't admit to instigating problems within the conversation. I don't want to hear not a man person cry, bitch, and moan about people being mean to Tommy when he's admitted to instigating shit. Please, I'm going to throw you a bottle of fucking Midol and tell you to fuck off. You don't get to instigate shit then play the fucking victim. I don't do that. I'm going to give him what he gives us. And then some. So hey, drag, where are you in the U.S. where you can dress like that outside this time of year? Texas. It's just cold enough to have on like these pants, this shirt. But I don't want to hear people trying to stick up for Neffy when he clearly poisons the well in a lot of these conversations. Don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean I just go and shit on Neffy. I just don't think he knows what he's talking about most of the time. Neffy can be cordial when he actually gives people room to speak. That doesn't mean I just say just shit on G-Man because, you know, he's G-Man. Some of the time he is cordial. Some of the time. When he's not playing Interruptus Maximus. No. I'm saying reciprocate whatever you give them. If they're not being very cordial, then don't expect people to be cordial with you. Like, it's sad that we got to keep having this conversation. But let me go on a bit of a tangent and explain something here, because I remember now what I want to talk about for a little bit. So, Shani watched a video that I made while I was in my son's room. I'm struggling to remember what the original premise was about. I think it was mostly about G-Man and some of his antics, and putting out kind of how I feel about certain behaviors. And Shani made a response to that, and she was saying something to the effect of, I didn't watch it all, I'll tell you right now, don't throw away your friendship with G-Man over YouTube. And think, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong about that video, I think she was alluding to the fact that I'm just shitting on him for like donations and shit like that, and internet fame. Again, if that's what I got from that conversation that she had, even though I did put something in the chat and responded to her. I don't need donations to shit on G-Man. I appreciate what people do, but I know. And I want to explain something about me personally that I think I've said before, but explain this in detail. Because there's quite a few people who are curious as to why I gave G-Man my phone number, because they'd never do it in a million years. I'm right there with you. I am right there with you. I was like, why the fuck would we give this dude who can barely shut up long enough to let somebody else speak? Why would I give him an open line of communication with me? Like, it just, yeah, I understand completely why people feel that way. Okay, let me stick up for G-Man. He's not like that all the time. He actually can have some decent conversation. If he's calm, and you catch him on a good day, maybe once or twice a week, actually have some decent conversation with him. Just like talking to an old buddy from school or something like that. So he's not raving maniac that you always see. Believe it or not. I'm somewhat reading the chat. It's going by too fast. If you really want me to see something, tag me. But on another hand, okay, I have a rule about people in my circle that I call friend. I don't coddle my friends. Not going to happen. Especially if they're grown-ass men. Especially if they're older than me. I'm not going to coddle them. Other people can coddle G-Man. You feel free. You can carry him and bring him up to your titty and let him suckle all day long. I will not do that. I don't coddle grown-ass men. Let me repeat myself. I do not coddle grown-ass men. Okay? I'm not sure what's confusing about that. I need to give you an example. I will. Let me give you an example. If you can't shut the fuck up for 2 goddamn seconds and listen to something I'm trying to tell you, I'm not going to sit here and clam up every time you feel the itch to interrupt me. Point fucking blank. Point fucking blank. Not going to put up with it. Say, all right, bye. Call me back when you learn how to have a decent conversation. You know, and I'm not talking about the, you know, someone needs just to butt in for a second. I'm talking about just like the incessant interruption shit. Like, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. Whoa, 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 wait. It's usually preceded by that. Only gonna take so many of those. Again, that's I give people enough leeway, you know, for their own little quirks, and everyone has their own quirk that you give you give a little bit of leeway for that. But there's a certain point where if you need to be the center of attention, I'm not going to coddle you. I'm not going to give in to that. Because it's not about you being the center of attention. There's just this burning thought that has to come out. I'm not going to do it. Because that shit's annoying and it's rude. If you don't realize it's rude, then you need to... what's his name? So you need to ask somebody. Goddamn, what was his name? Roy Montero. Gotta get with somebody who does know. So I appreciate the video, Shanny. You know, and I understand the thought, but I'm not gonna coddle him. I'm not gonna do it, and I've already told him that. I told him that in person. I told him that before I met him in person. I'm not gonna do it. I don't coddle grown-ass men. What is difficult about that? What is hard about understanding that? I don't shit on his religious beliefs when I talk to him. No, we just have a general conversation. We can talk about Star Wars, doesn't matter. But I have that standard for everybody, including people that I went to school with years ago. So a buddy of mine got pissed off at me, Larry, because I think he made a bad decision with a job. He wanted to dedicate more time to his art, his writing, and he left his job before he had secured employment. I said, that was a stupid ass move. I told him it was fucking stupid. And he got mad at me. He didn't speak to me for about 2 months. He called me back and said, you know what, man, I was pissed off, but you were right. I said, I know. Because it was a stupid. He admitted it was a stupid move. I didn't coddle him. I didn't go, oh, it's okay. Oh, it's all right. You tell those mean people, that mean boss, to give you more time. Oh, you go ahead and quit and be financially unstable. It's okay. No, I'm not going to do that. What kind of friend would I be to say, well, that action or that behavior was cool when it is obviously not? Like, it's never good to leave your place of employment without securing employment beforehand. That's never a good idea, ever. And I find it interesting on here because you'll see a lot of these guys, they won't check each other. You'll see folks, I guess, on our side of the fence that will go in the live chat, that will go in Hangouts, and if you say something that's just wrong, well, you get checked on it. You don't see that type of integrity because they're too busy trying to agree with one another and be up each other's ass. Because that's what I observe. I observe a lot of that, a lot of ass kissing. They will tiptoe around each other's positions all day long. And they will I think that might be. I'm like, why? You guys are adults. If he's wrong, he's wrong. I mean, of course, there's a tactful way to say it. You know what? I disagree. But you don't have to offer like this 5-minute like preface statement beforehand. And I'm trying to remember because I listened to G-Man reference Arcane and Mac Thomas, because I think now Mac Thomas and Arcane are Black Hebrew Israelites, which that doesn't surprise me in the fucking least. Trust me. Put both of them dudes together, and you got half of a absent daddy. Anyway, it's not surprising to me that they have fallen into this nonsense by any means, because neither one of them has really a strong reasoning capacity. Like it's to me, it's like I saw that coming. So when G-Man goes to criticize, oh well, you know, brother, I love you, Christ, but you know, I just really, you know, I hope it just don't take this personally, and I love you, Christ. I was like, just why do you got to do all that? Why do you have to do all that? You don't do that when you're trying to correct me. Like, so why are you doing it for them? Oh, because they're a brother in Christ. Because they're more delicate and more soft and sensitive. You can't hurt their little feelings too much. Is that why? Because if you make the argument that, well, I'm just showing them respect, so you're not then showing respect to others like atheists or pantheists or whoever, pagans. So you're not showing respect to them when you don't do it for them. No matter the justification, there's a certain level of disrespect that's built into that standard when you actively choose to put forth all this fucking preface statement and trying to lighten the blow for them with that criticism. Because if your criticism is just about their positions, you shouldn't have to, because you're not attacking them as a person, you're attacking their beliefs. But that should tell you something, though. That should tell everyone here something. If you know that they're going to take the criticism of their positions personally, what does that tell you about them as a person? What does that tell you? That tells you that they can't differentiate their beliefs from who they are. So everything becomes an affront to them. Whose problem is that? Is that Dragnot's problem? Whose problem is that? That's their problem. Maybe they need to grow the fuck up. and learn the difference between attacking someone's position and attacking them as a person. Because the fact that you need to coddle them and do that should tell you something. That should really tell you something about the person. No one has to go, hey, Drag, I'm sorry, Drag, you know, please, Drag, don't be mad at me. Please, you know, I think you got something wrong that just, you could have possibly, you could be mistaken. It's just okay. Please don't be mad at me, Drag. Like, no one needs to do that. No one needs to do that with me. Nobody. That doesn't mean come in and fucking insult me, you know, outright and then make it. No, you say, hey, I think you got that mistaken. Okay, cool. Let's talk about it. And that's it. Okay, cool. I'm gonna look into it. I don't even fight you. Unless I think I'm really right, then I might fight you on it. But still, it's not a personal matter. I'm not beholden to my beliefs so much that I think that it's a tacit way of attacking me. It shouldn't be like that at all. But this habit of expecting people to coddle you, to me, is bitch made. For one, it's really, really, really bitch made to me. Two, it tells me that there's a lack of understanding going on between certain individuals. And that lack of understanding has led them to some really weird behaviors. Incredibly weird behaviors. Because why should you have to do that? That's so much extra work that's not needed, especially for grown-ass men who supposedly aren't as sensitive as I claim that they are. Because I've heard that a long time ago. That when I point out how sensitive some of these guys are, they claim that I'm the sensitive one. I said, okay, well, my service record says otherwise, but fine. Where do you see me behaving this way? Where have you seen me display these behaviors, or someone doing that kind of stuff to me? Because I'll say something generally. I'll say something like, you don't have to do all that. Just tell me what it is. Just cut to the chase. Be as curt as you can, because I care more about the positions than my fucking feelings. If you care more about your feelings, then you probably, again, Neffy, you probably shouldn't be having a conversation. So, it's a really odd standard that I see with that, and a lot of other people see, and that some of us talk about it off air. That you don't have to sit here and kiss the ring every time a statement is made or you disagree with a statement. Not necessary. Not at all. So, on that note, folks, you want to go ahead and end this? I've yammered and blabbed enough. It's been over an hour and 14 minutes. Damn, okay. Covered a lot. But let me reiterate, G-Man claims that he did not block me on the phone, so he did call me last night to angrily inform me about how much I was a liar. So I'll have to rescind that statement. Still waiting on him to upload this, or get with what's-his-face and upload the video about all the conditions and all that good stuff. We'll see. I got family coming into town this Saturday, and they'll pretty much be here through the New Year. So if you don't hear from me, that's probably why. You might hear from me because I might just be out here because I do need a break from them. So what's going on here? I just say, as an infrequent viewer and longtime subscriber of Sam and Drag, that what they're doing with T and G-Man is a boon to the rest of the world. I mean, we do it for fun. To be honest, like, Sam and I just do it for fun, honestly. Like, it's kind of lost its luster after so long, because there's only so much you can milk from a Lug's cow. But it's funny you mentioned that. Let me get your name. A bit of the universe. It's funny you mentioned that, because G-Man has said on multiple occasions, and he's gotten other people to say this, that we're doing it for financial gain. Which is odd, because I don't think I've collected any money from YouTube, or from Patreon, or from any of that stuff in like at least 2 or 3 months. So I find that to be pretty funny. But then again, I think it's also a bit of jealousy too, because he does know that people have acted as my benefactor in the past. Not Sam, mind you, he's got nothing, but people have acted as my benefactor, and they bought me wings. So, is there anything Evie? Yeah. Yeah, there's always Dolo. Oh God, I've not went on Dolo's channel in a while. I'm trying to restore some of my brain cells. I'm dealing with some of these kooks, but yeah, I tell people, you don't have to. If you want to donate, there's a link in the description. Have at it. I'm going to buy some gas and probably some wings from Wingstop, and it'll make me happy. But no one's obligated to. No one's like this. This is not a primary, means of income for me. But I get on here and I do it because I fucking want to, and I appreciate people who do donate. But no, I'm not sure where he got that idea from. But I think I have an idea where he gets a lot of his other ideas, like people. What did he say in this last video? People need to come and worship me or some shit like that. I think that was it. Like he had on the hood, he was going around all hell Dragnot. Everyone go to Dragnot's channel. Dragnot will make it all better. And it's like, really? I don't think. Okay. I mean, he has some funny ideas. You pay attention to Brett King. It's funny you mentioned Brett King. Brett King uploaded a video today. No, about 9 or 10 hours ago, he uploaded a video. And it was on atheism is not edgy or something like that. And I went through and I marked timestamps every time he made a logical fallacy. I got tired, so I stopped watching the video. But I don't really, drag lock up for anyone else. Okay. Hello, Tanaka Shumba. I have no idea who you are. He sent your friend request on Facebook. Ew. Brett King's just a douche. There's nothing I have nice to say about it. As I've said, for every moment he spoke, like Nicola, I shit you not. I made one timestamp, and then as I was typing it, he made another fallacy. I had to stop the video, and I said, I'm done. I'm not doing this. I'm not. I thought he would make a few, and then he would stick with it. No, he made different ones. I said, no, not doing it. No, I think I was not even 2 minutes into the video, and I was on my third fallacy, and I stopped. I think my laptop in there is still on the timestamp because I didn't feel like typing it out. So, thank you, Dragnot. Thank you for distracting those two from the rest of the world. You've taken the brunt of the blow they could have done had they caught on some other religious channels. I mean, I don't think I'm doing a service. I know it's entertaining for folks. That's probably what... Okay, cut out as I was playing. You don't have to thank me at all, but I think that's why people have said that that's why I have a Patreon now, is because people have told me that they stopped watching Netflix, they stopped watching TV because now they just watch my channel and everybody else's channel, and that's their entertainment. So they took that money from Netflix and they put it in the Patreon. I was like, oh, okay, that's a good way of thinking about it. Okay, well, hey, it is what it is. Again, you're not required to, but I just think that's funny that people say that, because I don't know who watches my channel. I don't know what their day is like, and so for somebody to tell me that, I guess my content's pretty good, or enough that people will pay for it, because I honestly will watch a video or two, and it'll just be something on my mind. I just come out here and talk, because I have no problem just sitting and talking. Trust me, once you've been in the field, you learn how to pass the time. And just talking about stuff is one of the best ways to pass that time. I got life advice there. And so it's funny you mentioned that. When I first started on YouTube, I I was trying to do. I'm trying to think of how to explain it. If you've ever seen the channel, the Hodge Twins, their channel is set up like that. And they have a separate channel, Hodge Twin Fitness, and then they got the regular Hodge Twins. And what they do is they read off like letters from people, and they'll give life advice. And yes, I do give life advice to people in real life. And I'm pretty sure he wouldn't mind me, but Sam, I give Sam life advice, among other people, who will remain anonymous. But yeah, I do give people life advice, because I'm not sure why people want life advice from me, but people ask me and I give it to them. I got a young friend who actually in my video before last, she kept calling me for life advice. And actually there's somebody now on Facebook just messaged me about something going on in her life. This person, she's female from California. She works as she has a regular job, but she works as a sex phone operator, and she's an online sugar baby. She has a very interesting life, by the way. So she has a very interesting life, I'll say that. Very interesting. So, yeah. What's up? I'm about to end this. Dragnut, you saying, I debate my equals, all others are stuck with me. That's not my quote. That is a quote from the creator of what's known as African American history, I think he made, something like that. I said I forgot the actual field. Yeah, I think it's the field of African American history. Someone feel free, just look up John Henrik Clarke, and he has made some very great contributions to academia and highlighting certain aspects of social inequalities for African Americans. So that quote that you just typed is a part of an entire paragraph where he's explaining that you can't debate topics with people who aren't comparable to you in knowledge, because you inevitably end up teaching them. And it's true. It's not to be demeaning to anybody. That people take it, and mind you, I'll say it in a demeaning way, so that's probably why. But it has nothing to do with, you denigrating someone or someone having an inferiority or superiority complex. It is what we literally see here. Look at every conversation with Tommy Hall. There's not one conversation where somebody has to correct him and then teach him what he's trying to say. I dare you to find one conversation that is not like that with Tommy Hall. Just to give you an example. Because he has, his level of knowledge on these topics is next to nothing. Nothing. He doesn't know basic biology. He doesn't know basic chemistry, basic anything in these topics. And so when he talks to someone like Fiona, when he talks to someone like Sam, when he talks to someone like Jade, when he talks to someone like Nestle, when he talks to someone like Hogtie, when he talks to someone like me, when he talks to someone like CRISPR, when he talks to someone like Rational Mind, he has to be taught half the stuff that he's talking about, because he's fucking it up so bad. And like I said, you don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe a goddamn word that I say at all. Go watch any conversation with Tommy Hall, and you will watch people teach him what he's trying to say, or teach him what he's trying to reference every single time. Yes, I'm very familiar with that Eric W. Very, unfortunately, from my own background and just in general being aware of that. That's some of the things that MP, myself, and Emperor Atheist are going to be speaking about very, very soon. Once we get some time together, we're going to be speaking about that, because that's a troubling thing, because MP has a really good story about that, and from his personal life. But yeah, just look at that dynamic. Look at that dynamic for a second, and then realize that it's not necessarily, it's not said to demean Tommy Hall, because he can be cordial when he wants to be, even though he is an instigator. But it's a remark about how the conversation cannot progress, because he lacks the knowledge to progress it. The conversation is stymied by his lack of knowledge, literally. Because if we're talking about, let's say, if I'm talking to Nephi about how we can figure out whether or not this new creature can be determined to be a species, if I'm using the biological species concept, and I said, well, I'm arguing from both aspects, from biological species concept and the phylogenetic species concept. If I'm going back and forth and I'm saying, well, the merit of this one is this, the merit of that one is that, but this one can't do this one can't do that, if he doesn't know what they are, I have to teach him that, then go back and explain everything, and then hopefully progress the conversation if he's understood what I just had to teach him, rather than him going, oh yeah, I understand what you're saying, but let me go ahead and retort the phylogenetic species concept specializes in this, 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 and this, and I don't have to sit here and do pros and cons, because he already understands it. That's a whole bunch of breath that I can save. You see what I mean? Just in that scenario alone is why a lot of these conversations go nowhere. And he doesn't want to take it upon himself to learn it, because he thinks that, and I don't have a problem saying this, Tommy thinks that he could just skate by these conversations by dropping his new key term or key phrase. Now it went from epigenetics, now it's POPs. He thinks he understands that. And so again, like, he forgets that there are people in this community who have been in these fields for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And they can go, wait, how, he's referencing this in a way that doesn't align with stuff that I've actually done research in. So he, for some reason, believes that he can have a really remedial understanding of these topics, but should be taken seriously. No. That's not to say that people at my education level and lower can't make contributions. No. It speaks to the fact that he's not done the requisite reading and learning that he needed to do before he had the conversation. That's it. It's not, it's really, that's what it comes down to. And it shows in these conversations. Like I said, folks, if you can find a conversation where someone has had to not teach Tommy something, let me know, because I have yet to see one. I have yet to see any conversation like that. So on that note, folks, thanks for watching. I'll see you later.